Does the way I sit on my bike make a difference?
Absolutely. That's probably one of my very first questions that I ask you in my bike fit. So there's 4 big questions that are very important to me, or 2 big questions, 2 big goals for me as a bike fitter. So one of my very first question was, how do you want to sit on your bike? And I remember you giving me such a weird frown, like, what do you mean? Aren't I just supposed to sit like the bike wants me to sit? No. So it really is important to know, for me as a fitter, how do you want to sit on your bike? Irma, I want to compete, or I just want to have fun, or I have this lower back, or want to sit upright please because my back or my neck or my arthritis or my knee. Normally clients give you quite a direct answer initially why they want to sit more upright or more aggressive or more mid-range. But it really is about what your body wants rather than what the bike demands or the bike fitter demands. That really is not the point what I want. It's what your body wants. The other question then that influences is, why do you cycle? So why you cycle plays a big role in how you would want to sit at the end of the day. So if you say, I want to compete, or no, I would like doing 3-day events as a social thing with my best mates or my wife or my spouse or my kid or whatever, then I have to honor that why. It's imperative for me, it's very important. And I have to bring those 2 things together. And then the 2 main goals, how I get those 2 things to actually fit into my bike fit methodology, is to minimize injuries, understanding why you can't really turn your leg in a circle. You might have heard me say that before, because it's a complete unnatural biomechanical thing to do. Cycling is the most difficult thing you can do with your body and a thing. Okay, so the leg doesn't know how to turn in a circle. It really wants to. It wants to help you, but it's freaking out. And we have to get the muscles to do the job, not the joints, not the ligaments, not the tendons. The tendons needs to be strengthened on the bike and not compromised on the bike. And how I can get the brain to help me focus on that process is to minimize the survival aspect of it. And that's the last big thing for me, is to get the brain to just chill a little bit, because you're airborne. Okay, don't know if you noticed, but your feet aren't on the floor anymore, and it freaks out your brain because it thinks that you're going to die. And the reason for that is that it demands the skeletal system to feel grounded, to look for something more stable. That's why you always have 2 feet on the ground and not just one, most of us, okay? Or if you fall, what do people do? When they fall, they put out the hand first and then the elbow, and then so your brain really compromises. It will allow the hand to break or the collarbone to pop or the ribs to break, as long as the neck and the spine and the head are the last pieces of bone that has to find stability, because the chances of you dying in that process is really big. So I want to minimize that for the brain, and I want to give your body some form of stability where the bones feel like, okay, they've got you, everything's fine. How do I turn this leg in a circle? And once I get that right, I get the why and the posture sort of fixed into that position as well. The fears is a big factor, really big factor. I'll never forget fitting this one lady on this one day, and her husband was with. And when I got to her part of the question, she just burst out crying. She said she's scared to death because she broke her arm and she doesn't feel like she has any control over the bike, and she doesn't know why. And the second I explained what the brain is doing with the body and we just changed the saddle and got the saddle to be in a more in the bike position, so she felt like she was in the bike and she had control. She could ride rounds to Wales, and she had PRs on her downhills, and she wasn't so scared. She's still scared, but she was getting PRs, which means that she was going faster, she was more comfortable, more in control, and it changed the way that her and her husband were riding together, because he understood for the first time why she was so scared.
So with that as a background, what are the most common mistakes that riders make?
I think the biggest thing for me is we try and pedal with our feet through our hips. So it's like a we don't know how a pedal stroke works. We don't know how to get the leg to move smoothly and solidly, and how to activate the different muscle groups to try and help us. And if the position of the saddle is in the wrong place, it's a big problem, because you won't get it right. No matter how strong or how weak you are, you just won't get it right. And that's when you start pedaling what I call through a joint or through a tendon, rather than using a muscle group. From the pelvis to the foot and that whole motion, that is the biggest mistake. And It's not an easy answer on how to fix it. It's a combination of a lot of stuff that we've been talking about.
I think when I came to see you, I was recommended by a good friend of mine to come and get my bike fitted. And I was really impressed by how much you really wanted to know about me, my history, my injuries, my broken collarbone, my arthritis in my hip. Why is that so important?
It's very important. It's first of all, it's your story, and I can't honor your fears or honor your goals or your objectives if I don't know where you're coming from. To me, cycling is such a big equalizer, so it doesn't matter how old you are, how strong you are, how weak you are. In the end, we are on our bikes and we get to the same end point. And it's just how we feel about that period that we're on our bikes that makes the difference whether we end up wanting to cycle or not. Understanding your limitations with regards to your injury history gives me a perspective of how would your hip work, or how tight would your arm be if it was broken over here or over here. And when I do the body assessment, I really want you to sort of zoom into yourself and not feel the broken collarbone. If you move your arm, where would the restriction be? And if you start using the neck or using the lower back to lift your arm up, that's how I know, okay, that's how I'm going to get the reach to be more comfortable. So I'm going to lift you up, or you don't have to be so high, you actually need to go down. It's counterintuitive. How do I get the saddle to move so that you don't twist your hip to get the leg down because your arm actually can't. So you have to sort of, you bring everything together, your foot and your shoulder talk to each other. So I'm trying to see all of that within the story that you told me. If you have arthritis, that's a degenerative illness, it's an autoimmune illness. I can't take that away. It's nothing I can do on the bike to not irritate that part of your body. But I have to try and at least open up your hip based on what you say is an easy hip flexion, or how much spinal flexion have you got, where everything where this is compromised, where it's extended or closed up, where do you not feel pain? And make sure that I can see what that is, and then when you get on the bike, you sort of have to feel like you're in that same ratio. I refuse to do a bike fit without understanding that bit first.